Hey everyone, welcome Azure Cosmos DB Live TV. I'm Mark Brown. Welcome, episode 62. Just finished Ignite 2022, and I've got with us this week Gahl Levy. Gahl, how are you?
I'm doing well. Just wrapped up the conference and happy to be here.
You're having a beer right now. It's 10 o'clock in the morning.
Happy to be here.
Happy to be here. I thought you said you're having a beer.
Happy to be here.
You could be forgiven. It's okay. It's been it's been quite hectic for at least the last month or so as we've gotten everything put together and ready for these past couple of days. Our big announcement at Ignite this year was, of course, our newest API, the Azure Cosmos DB for Postgres or PostgreSQL. I guess I don't know. Sorry, I'm really butchering the name here. Postgres. I just call it Postgres. But I wanted to have you on this week because you've got really two big announcements as well related to our MongoDB API. And I thought we'd just spend a few minutes and just talk about these if we could. So, and by the way, you're out in Seattle this week, right? So you're normally based out of New York. When we do the show together. So it's great. Well, I'm not up there. I'm still down in Los Angeles, but good to have you out in Seattle. And you enjoyed the show, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, it's nice to be here. It's nice to be in person, see people in person, see people using Cosmos DB in person, actually getting to talk to them. So that's always really cool to do.
Was that your first Ignite that you've ever been at?
Yeah, it's my first one.
Wow. So that's awesome. I've been to 20 of them, I think, over the years. And they're normally in Orlando.
Yeah.
And normally in the middle of the summer or in September. They sometimes do them in November, which is much more tolerable from a Florida perspective. But yeah, kind of cool in Seattle. I know that was kind of a last minute thing for us doing them in Seattle, but it was good. And you had a good experience, I'm guessing, and got to meet lots of folks. That's cool. So, well, hey, let's get to your two big announcements. I won't spoil the surprise. So okay, you're going to show us the portal here, and so tell us, what have we got?
Yeah, so to start, we actually had three announcements. The third one is very small, so I'll start with that. You might notice in the portal here and also in our docs and stuff, our name has changed from Azure Cosmos DB API for MongoDB to Azure Cosmos DB for MongoDB. So you'll start seeing that everywhere. So if you see that, don't get confused. That's just the new name that we have. That's like a very small announcement compared to everything else. But the bigger announcements are, one, we have support for larger documents now, 16 megabyte documents up to. And we also have RBAC, role-based access control, and they're both in GA now. So great for production use cases and all that. And the best way to enable and access these features is actually in the portal. So you can just go in the portal, go to the features tab.
Yep.
You'll see all the features you can enable here. So you can enable 16 megabyte, enable, close. This account already has RBAC enabled, so you won't see it being enabled here, but you just press a button and then a few seconds later, no downtime, no changes, you'll just have RBAC enabled. And that allows you to, in addition to using the connection string keys and all that, you can also create users and roles to manage your database access.
Got it. So once you turn that on, you can basically modify your connection string to have username at basically your Mongo account, right? So you'd have kind of more a traditional Mongo account.
Exactly. Yeah, and the users and roles in this case are stored in the database itself. So you actually have an authentication for per database, not database account, actual database, and you can define roles at the collection level granularity. So you can have very granular access control to control how users actually access the database itself.
That's cool. Before you go into deeper, I noticed there are a lot of features exposed through here for Mongo accounts. Do you want to talk about just a few, or maybe each of them real quick before we move on?
Yeah, we can go through all of them here. One thing to mention is that these features can also be programmatically enabled through our capabilities. So I'll just quickly kind of go to that. So you can see in our RBAC docs here, we actually have a link. If you want to do it programmatically, you can go to the capabilities and you'll find a lot of them listed here. But going back to the portal, we can go, Retryable Writes, we have descriptions for all these, obviously. But it allows your drivers to basically retry certain operations to prevent failures. And this is coupled in addition to the server-side retry feature, which is separate. This is basically enabling a Mongo driver feature to work with Cosmos DB for MongoDB, which also means that in your connection string, you don't have to specify Retryable Writes equals false anymore if you have that feature on. There are certain behavior changes which are worth reading through and making sure that they work for your use case.
Yeah, that would be important, right? On making sure retrying writes can sometimes be fraught with some issues that may be unexpected. So I think you'd want to understand those before you just kind of blindly turn that on, it would seem.
Exactly. Just make sure you review all that before.
Yep.
We're talking about RBAC here. I'll be doing a demo of this in a few minutes. 16 megabyte documents. It's important to note this feature cannot be disabled, because once you have large documents, you don't want to disable that because that could corrupt, that could cause issues. So this feature cannot be disabled once it's enabled. And by us raising the limit to 16 megabyte, it's not us saying, you should only use larger documents or have use cases with larger documents. In general, it's good to keep your documents small, on the smaller side, like 10 kilobytes, something like that. This just gives you flexibility. So if you have a use case where you do have larger documents, we're not going to prevent you from using our product, but that should, the number of those documents should still be kept relatively small, as small as possible.
That's right. I've read through the Mongo's docs quite a bit. They even say in their own docs, like, hey, just because you can have a 16 megabyte document doesn't mean you should, right? Yeah. Especially in scenarios with high volumes or high concurrency or anything where basically speed matters. Or performance matters. Not a great idea just to have 16 meg docs flying all over the place. I mean, that's a huge payload, first of all, and going to be expensive to process, whether it's CPU on a VM or throughput for us, or RUs for us. So yeah, good. That's cool. So now customers can set that when they create an account, and then basically have one less thing to worry about when they're migrating data or copying data over, is what it seems like.
You can set it at account creation as well as for existing accounts. It will just the new limit will apply to any new collections created after the feature is turned on.
Okay. So you can so you don't need to do it for new. You can set it on existing. Yeah. And then create new collections, and then if you want to import data into that.
Exactly.
Cool. All right.
So we have a Synapse link here for analytical workloads in terms of basically ETL. It ETLs your data automatically for you from your Mongo account to Synapse. You can run analytics workloads there much more cheaply and cost efficient. And it's great for like separating your transactional workloads away from that.
I had a show. I think it was either Sergey was on, or maybe Rodrigo, and we showed that feature, which I always thought that's really cool. Having Synapse Link combined with Mongo. In one way, you get this cognitive dissonance of, hey, I could run T-SQL queries over my Mongo data, which should make people's head explode. But other than the joke behind that, it's pretty powerful if you can run like Spark queries or Spark jobs over data, your Mongo data in there. And not only that, but your Mongo workloads can now take advantage of all the power with Synapse Link. I mean, you could do MI over this thing. You could build Power BI or dashboards over these things, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, that's a very cool feature. I don't think people know much about it, especially our Mongo users, but very cool. Okay, what else you got here?
It's just a checkbox, and it does it all for you. You don't have to do work afterwards.
Yeah,
your transactional workloads just stay the same. The next one here is the current server version, which is connected to the features that we expose. So this can be, there's a whole bunch of information here regarding upgrades and stuff, but this can be set up and down. You can upgrade or downgrade based on the version you want to use. And we have the upgrade guides and all that in our docs for that too. And the next one here, second to last one here, is server-side retry. And this is enabled by default on all accounts. It's actually, in many cases, it's important to keep on. What this does is, in case you have a request that goes in and you don't have enough request units to complete that request, server-side retry will retry that request over 1 minute to attempt to get it to work. And this really helps, allows you to set your RUs a bit lower than usual, and allows your requests to succeed basically if you don't have enough request units to get it to work. And In a way, this kind of emulates how a VM would work in some ways, because your request just gets slower, because it's not like, it doesn't make it any faster. It just allows it to complete. So your requests do get slower because they retry, but at least they complete, which
So
is
like it makes sense, right? Like in a VM, your requests are just going to get queued up until CPU gets to them and then runs them, right? And of course, that's the latency you're going to see, is it's just sitting there and it's going to take a while the other one's finished. So that's cool. So you know what that reminds me of? It's kind of equivalent to the burst capability we have with our throughput now, almost, where you can take and accrue unused throughput and then apply it in a short period of time to handle when you kind of go over that amount. But this is even more powerful in that you can retry. What is it? Up to 60 seconds, I think, up to a minute.
Yeah, it's 1 minute, and then it'll time out if it fails after.
Got it. Yeah, so you still want, obviously, catching for timeouts and stuff like that, and other stuff like that. So all the same rules apply, but just kind of take some of the rough edges off there, with Cosmos being a resource governed service, uses throughput. This feels more like running on a VM, basically, for workloads like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can disable it if you want, or enable it anytime. So.
Okay. A couple questions here. Oh, here's one. Do any of these features cost money?
None of these features are all included. You can enable, disable them. The one that does by cost money, you do pay for compute and storage if you turn on Synapse links.
Synapse,
it's a separate service that you're using and moving your data from Cosmos to. So, but actually using the feature itself is turning it on is free, as long as you're paying for the compute and storage there.
Right. So you turn it on, you're going to pay storage cost when it ETLs your data over into the analytical store. That's pretty inexpensive, though. It's basically what blob storage costs. So I mean, we're 25 cents a gig. Blob storage is I don't know, like a tenth of that or something. It's really inexpensive. And then, of course, if you want to provision a Spark cluster or SQL serverless, of course you're going to pay for that compute to go and run your queries and stuff. So if
you're not running any queries, I guess you're not paying for that.
Yeah, makes sense.
Cool. Everything else is included. So
cool. All right, well, hey, that's cool. Thanks for showing us all those. I was actually in the portal the other day, and I'm like, wow, you guys expose a lot of features through here. I don't see this for the other APIs actually. So very cool the way you do that, and just lets people kind of tune their accounts for what they need in there. So
I just wanted to touch quickly on the last one. This allows you to better investigate certain queries and diagnostic logs. So if you want to know, you see queries that are costing a lot of RUs, for example, you order it by the number of RUs that they cost. You can see this allows you to basically see the full text of what the query is looking for, and gives you more, I guess, investigative capabilities to look into that. Usually you just want to enable this for diagnosing and then disabling it afterwards when you're done.
Yeah, so you could, so putting, that's really cool actually, is going to take and allow you to do Kusto queries against your queries in there, and get more detail basically on what queries are taking longer, because we're going to provide you kind of throughput cost. I'm guessing there's execution time is available through there as well. So you could write a Kusto query that says, hey, summarize RU cost and latency by basically the query text in there, and you can say, hey, and then do an order by on it. You can say, hey, what are my top expensive queries in there, and then just see a list of them in there. That's cool. I like that. And Kusto, by the way, is super. I love Kusto. It's very powerful. I don't know if you folks know, but we use Kusto extensively in Azure for all of our telemetry, and we as PMs on the Cosmos team, we all are heavy users. We're heavy users of Cosmos, and we're heavy users of Kusto as well, because it's super powerful in there. So another question here, not quite related. Jim, great news from Ignite. Thank you very much. Full fidelity change feed. When can we expect it? Well, not right away. Definitely working on it. I think we got private preview, I think, right now. But stay tuned. I was just talking to PM on our team that's managing that, and we'll have that out pretty soon. So sit tight, and we'll have her on the show as well to show that off to you. So just stay tuned, Jim, and watch, because we'll show you. And we're not going to announce it here but this will be the first place you'll see it. So, okay, Gahl, let's get into what are we doing first, 16 meg or RBAC?
So I think 16 meg is pretty self-explanatory. The limit went up, and you shouldn't have too many large documents. So leaving that aside, I think it's probably more interesting to dive deeper into RBAC instead. So let's start with that. So I'm sure we have this link on the screen there,
Yep.
but this leads you to the documentation where we have all the information around how to enable RBAC and what it does and all that. So we can just walk through this quickly, and then I'll show a demo of how this actually works. So scrolling through, the important concepts here to understand are resources, which is a collection or database that you're actually applying rules to. For example, user Gahl can only access collection A in database A, for example, or in database X, for example. Privileges are the actual actions that can be performed. So privileges, for example, are being able to read, being able to write, etc., or do other actions. Roles are the groups of permissions that you're assigning to users. So, for example, if I want to have a role that says, users that have this role can perform reads and writes on collection X in database Y, that would be a role. And having that role pre-made allows you to assign these roles to as many users as you want, and makes it easier rather than having to assign privileges to users directly and repeating that process over and over and over again. So having a roles is just an easier way of doing this. And a lot of these map directly to what's done in native MongoDB, just to make it easier for MongoDB developers to onboard to this.
So resource in the Azure AD world would be scope, where you'd have what is the resource you're going to apply this to, and then privilege obviously is action, like you were saying. With resource, what is the various scope levels? I'm seeing database and collection. Can I apply it at the account level and provide RBAC over all of it?
Yeah, so we're working on that we're planning on working on that for the future. It's not there yet, but right now we have the roles and the privilege, the roles and the users are scoped at the database level, being the highest kind of order level, and then collections within that. So
got it.
You can have a user Gahl in database A, database B, database C. Cross database is something for the future we're considering.
Got it. I guess that's not very Mongo specific, right? Like for them, I guess the coin of the realm is the database, right? There's no concept of an account, I guess, or maybe they do have an Alice.
There's a cluster, but yeah.
A cluster, yeah, right. So, yeah. Okay, cool.
And one benefit of being able to have all these actions and authorized or not authorized is now you have the ability to audit what your users are actually doing. So for compliance reasons, lots of people are asking for this, and this is like really important for compliance reasons. And now we provide this in the native Azure tooling. In the diagnostic logs we just described over here, you basically just go down to the portal to the log section. You'll be able to see with role-based access control enabled and users actually using it, you'll be able to see in a column what each user has been doing. So for compliance reasons, this is a really nice feature as well.
That is very cool. I like that. We have customers that always ask that always are asking stuff like that. In fact, I see a lot of support tickets from people like, hey, who did this to my database or to my container? And I'm like, did you turn on RBAC in there? And do you have auditing enabled as well? They're like, no. And I'm like, well, there you go. Need that. You need to have that, right? So otherwise, who's going to know? So, okay.
Yeah.
So cool. Yeah. So some of the privileges you got on here.
Yeah, so these are the actions users can take, and if they have this privilege, they can take it. Otherwise, they cannot take these actions. A lot of these self-explanatory, etc. I don't have to go through all of them. One very nice feature is you typically have to create your own roles, but we also offer built-in roles, so you don't have to create them yourselves. We already have built-in roles that you can just leverage yourself, and you can see the exact privileges that are assigned to these built-in roles. And in today's demo, we're going to assign the read built-in role to one user and see what that user can or cannot do, and show how that works.
I think it's interesting. I'm looking over these that you have control plane privileges in here as well as data plane. That's actually better than
It was tricky to
what we have today. Like you're basically, I mean, we've RBAC on Cosmos now. We've had RBAC on control plane for a long time. And then we've got our data plane, and they're different actually. So people can kind of get confused. Here, they're all. I mean, we're going to make that unified, but right here for Mongo users, it's all in one spot for this. So
yeah, so this is you can still do RBAC for control plane separately, but this is for focus on data plane. Some of these operations kind of span both, as you mentioned. So those were a bit trickier to get it to work. But
that's the one I see in the support ticket is, hey, who deleted my collection? I'm like, I have no idea. So okay.
So we have those, and we have a nice quick start to get started. AZ CLI is a great way to do it. As you'll see, like in my demo, there's plenty of different ways to authenticate, and we have examples for many of these. Mongo Shell, I'm sure, will be a popular one. That's the one we'll be using. It's a popular tool for folks. And when you're creating roles and users, there's different ways of doing it. You can do it in the command line directly with a whole thing there that has a lot of escapes. The more user-friendly way is just by passing a JSON file, which is what we'll show. We have examples for all of these for every kind of operation you'll want to do. And just to clarify, when you are setting up, when you're configuring RBAC, these are only done through the native Azure tooling. We don't support configuring RBAC through any other way. So it's only through AZ CLI, PowerShell, etc. So it's all integrated with the rest of your Azure tooling.
Got it. Okay.
All right. So from that, I'm going to switch my screen to the terminal, and we can show how this works in the demo.
Okay. Yep. Here, I'll re-edge in here once you flip that over. While that's going up, I'm going to put your announcement. So you got a blog post up on our blog that covers this and 16 meg in there. So I'll let people take a look at that while Gahl here is putting up his shell here. And here we go. All right.
All right. So I just have my shell here. The important thing to show is I already have a file created, user.json. This is going to define what my user is going to be all about, basically. This is assuming you either have to create roles before or you can use a built-in role. In this case, you can see I'm leveraging the built-in read role, but I have my authentication database. My database is the name of a database I created before, and this database has a collection with some documents in it. And I'm going to be authenticating this user with basically coupling this username Gahl to the database, my database. So this user will live in that database and have access, and the roles will apply to that database only. So we have that. We have my username. We have my very secure password. And we have the database name again. This is, you can put whatever you want. Some notes here.
What is that? I was just looking at that. Like, what's the custom data for?
It's I believe it's metadata that MongoDB uses, and we just you don't actually need it for our version. We would just have that for compat, I think.
Oh, I see. So it's kind of like you could in the Azure equivalent would probably be using like tags or something. I'm guessing, right? So you could look at it later. Okay.
We have the authentication mechanism, and most importantly, we have the list of roles here that we're associating with the Gahl user, and in this case, we're using the built-in read role. And this is the authentication database.
Now, you were saying earlier, I got to create, if I'm doing custom roles, I got to create and apply those first, and then I can do the role assignment. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's the best way to do it. I mean, you can add roles to a user afterwards. Like I can create a user and just add roles afterwards and edit the user. But the typical flow is if you want a custom role, just create the custom role first, then create the users with that role. There's no reason to do things twice.
Okay.
So going from here, let's just issue the command here to create this user. So basically, using the AZ CLI. By the way, if you're planning on doing this, make sure you upgrade to the latest version, because that's where the MongoDB user commands will be located. Otherwise, you won't have them yet because these are new.
Latest version of Mongo. Oh,
No,
Azure CLI.
Yeah, Azure CLI.
Got it.
Yeah. And then you can see I'm just using this JSON, and that's much more user friendly than trying to pass that in the shell itself.
Yeah, we we do that in some other places as well. As a heavy Bash user, I find it can be challenging. Doing it in a file is way simpler, obviously, than doing a bunch of escapes inline in Bash for sure.
File, and that's the 100% the best way to do it.
Yeah.
You can see this succeeded. It created the user. You can also list users and all that, but that user will be there. And now I'm basically, I just copy pasted that example we have from the docs on how to connect with Mongoose. I have Mongoose here, so I'm just going to connect. Let me just copy paste this. So I have to type it out. Let me just scroll up so you can actually see what I'm doing here. So I'm connecting. I'm specifying the authentication database because it has to know which database is this user associated with. This is a native MongoDB thing. So this database is associated with a database called my database. I'm using the authentication mechanism I specified before in that JSON file. And then I have my connection string with the user and password embedded and all that. And then it connects, and then you can see that we can now connect and use my database. Switch that. And you can see that if I have that collection here, if I read the collection, this user had the read role associated with it. So if I read the collection, I can actually see all the documents, and it works correctly. But if I try to insert a new city into this collection, the insert is blocked and it fails. And it also, if you look this up in the diagnostic logs, you'll see that I tried to do this, and you'll be able to audit that as well. You'll also be able to audit the things that actually succeeded, but everything is auditable. But as you can see, this correctly failed because we only have read privileges.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Right on. And I'm guessing if you look in audit logs, it's going to show the actual name of the user, right?
Yeah.
That's also better than what we've got. If you do that in control plane, I don't know if on our RBAC data plane if it works. I know if on control plane you do something, we actually just show that the AD token, and so you actually have to go back and figure out, okay, who did that at that time. So anyway, this is cool. I like this. Something else you want to show?
No, that's it.
That's it.
Pretty simple.
This is great. I really appreciate you coming on and showing this. This is some, I'm going to put up your blog post again here. So aka.ms, mongo-at-ignite 2022. This is great. So thanks. Hey, folks, I want to show you something else. Obviously, our big announce this week was our Postgres announcement here. We're running an event next Tuesday, 2 hours starting at 9 a.m. Pacific, called Azure Cosmos DB Liftoff. And what we're going to do is we've got 2 hours, a bunch of basically quick hitting short sessions. We'll start with a little keynote from Kirill, who's general manager for the Cosmos DB team. And then just a bunch of really quick sessions from a lot of the engineers and product managers on the team going through basically doing distributed SQL using Postgres in there. And we have a couple of sessions at the end too for cool stuff with the NoSQL Cosmos as well. And here, come visit. You can see all the speakers that we've got on the page here. So Azure Cosmos DB Liftoff. Come check us out next week. You can save the date on here, RSVP, and come and watch for 2 hours and get a deep dive on how to do Postgres, distributed Postgres. Also, check out our blog as well. That's devblogs.microsoft.com/cosmosdb. You can read our announcements in here from the team. There's a very deep dive one here on doing distributed Postgres from Ozgun and Umer from the Postgres team in there. And then there's Gahl's blog post right there, building more and secure new features with Azure Cosmos DB for MongoDB. So yeah, that's it for us this week. Hey folks, this was episode 62, we had. So come check us out. We've got 61 other episodes for you to watch. The holidays are coming up. And what better way than to curl up with a glass of wine and 62 hours of Azure Cosmos DB live episodes? You can get all caught up from the very first episode all the way to this one here. And actually, we'll have some more after that as well. Please, every month we run our Cosmos DB user group. New guest every month for our monthly meetup. So come and join us. You can hit our meetup page there and join us. And then get notified for new meetups coming. Oh, I see either a comment or a question. Oh, just there we go. Thanks for sharing this with us. Yes, definitely. Anthony here. Good vibes. Thank you very much, Anthony. So people seem to enjoy the show this week. I definitely enjoyed it. It's great having you here at Ignite. I didn't make it up for Ignite up in Seattle this time, but I'm glad you were able to come out. I'm glad you had your very first Ignite experience. I hope you get 20 of those as well. You'll be older for sure. You'll feel older after 20 of them as well.
I'll have to change my picture on the icon and the blog.
Yeah, you may want to shave your head too. So, all right. Hey, folks, that's it for us this week. Join us next week. What have we got going next week here? Hold on. Let me pull it up. Next week, where I can't even find it. Where's my show? There it is. Hold on. Sorry, folks. Next week, we've got, Java and Spring Cloud. We're going to have Rory Preddy on. He's Cloud Developer Advocate from our Java Developer Advocacy team. And he's going to talk about building apps on Spring Cloud in Azure. So come join us for that next week. That'll be fun. Rory's awesome. You're going to love it. So, all right, folks. Gahl, thank you so much. Great having you on. And thank you, folks, for joining us. And we'll see you all next week. Bye-bye. Oh, I clicked the wrong thing. There we go. Let's try this again. All right. Bye-bye.